So hi Véronique, welcome to this podcast, Operating with Positive Impact, where we try to inspire people actually to change our business world into a more sustainable one. Maybe Véronique, if you could introduce a bit yourself. I know you work at UCB, but maybe you can introduce your journey and.
Yes, of course. So yes, good morning, and very nice to be with you today. So my name is Véronique Toully. I am Global Head of Sustainability, Corporate Affairs and Risk at UCB. I've been close to 20 years at UCB, so a long time in very different roles, starting in market access, and you will see that it has a link also to my sustainability journey. And after I went in a business role, so I was a general manager for 2 affiliates, so one in Australia and afterwards in China. And I came back and I took this responsibility to integrate sustainability within UCB strategy, and I'm sure we will talk a bit more about it in the coming.
Exactly. By personal interest as well, why did you decide to move then in the end towards sustainability from more the market aspect and to sustainability? Is there something that changed in the end in your journey that you decided to go for that? Or
no, I don't think that it was there was a decisive moment. It's really a progression in my professional journey. So as I told you, I worked for a long time in market access, which in the pharmaceutical industry is about defining the way medicine are priced and reimbursed in countries. So it's a lot about negotiating with countries and with insurance, the price that they are willing to pay for innovation. And I really was always very proud to work for this industry, because I really believe that we change the life of people for the best. You know, you see the great really innovation that has completely changed the prognosis of cancer, and breast cancer being one of them, but a lot of them. You see also how biological drugs have changed also the life of people with immunological disease. So really, yes, I always had a lot of pride to work for this industry. So I'm a scientist by training, so it has probably a link to that, but really working for this industry was really something that resonated with me a lot. At the same time, being a market access professional, I also am completely aware, and I was aware for a long time, that not everybody has access to innovative medicine, and that you still have a lot of inequalities in terms of access to healthcare in the world, but also to innovation. And you see it not only in the low and medium income countries, you see it also in countries like the USA, where people, you know, from the black communities, Hispanic communities, and really minorities have less access to innovation than other people, so the white community. And this was always in the back of my mind when I was working in market access, so as head of market access for UCB, but before that as a consultant also. So I was also specialized in market access and working with basically most of the pharmaceutical companies. So it was something that really was in the back of my mind, that this industry needed to do better in really contributing to decreasing inequalities to access to innovation. And that was the trigger for me to really enter the sustainability journey. Okay. So that was really the social side that brought me to thinking that we have to do differently. We have to do better. We have to continue to innovate, but really improve and really try to improve the way people have access to innovation. So that was the starting point for me.
Okay, no, very interesting. And that leads actually to another question from my end is, I know you have a certain vision of a patient-centric, right, vision for sustainability. Is that a bit what you're describing here, that view on access to innovation, on inequalities, and trying to make that, or is it something else? Maybe can you describe a bit that patient-centric
I think it's linked. It's really about making sure that we contribute to create a good experience for patients who have to take some specific treatment and who unfortunately live with some diseases. So for us, the patient-centric angle started before the sustainability agenda at UCB, and you know they are completely linked. for sure, because creating value for patients now and into the future, which is our purpose, is actually a purpose that defines also how we see sustainability. It's really about having a social impact and really making the life of patients really better by innovating. So really bringing drugs, medicine to the market that really will have a differentiated impact on the life of people. But as I always say, and we often say, everybody at UCB, is that it's not enough to bring a drug to the market. It needs to be accessible to patients.
Yep.
So you need to work with, as we discussed before, public or private insurance to make sure that they recognize the value and the drug is affordable for patients. And after, it's about creating also the right experience, which encompasses the way also we look at the environmental impact of our medicine.
Yep.
So, all of that is actually very well linked. So a purpose to really have a social impact can't go without taking care also of our environmental impact. And therefore, you're right, and you rightly say that our sustainability agenda is really anchored in this idea that we are working for people with severe disease. We are a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
We make medicine. Therefore, our customers are patients with severe disease, and therefore, you're right that our sustainability agenda is patient-centric.
Yeah, and because sustainability is really growing of interest. We see that with all the regulation, everything like that. I'm really a bit wondering, did this vision evolve actually through time for UCB, and did sustainability grow in the company with interest, and that changed a bit slightly that vision?
Yes.
How, can you explain a bit that journey, maybe?
Indeed, it evolved. So probably an important point is that we have this idea of being there for the generation to come. And I mentioned to you our purpose, which is creating value for patients now and into the future. So the future is really important for us. So it could have something to do with the fact that we have a family with a reference shareholder for UCB. And UCB is going to be very soon 100 years old. So we are already, a company that has gone through multiple changes, and we are here for the future. So this has really helped to anchor sustainability at the center of UCB. And not, since you actually rightly mentioned, since sustainability is very fashioned, I think that this idea of being there for the generation to come was present at the start when the company was created and during the development. So another step which was really important was really to put patient at the center of UCB strategy. And this has been really developed since 10 years. So same thing, before sustainability became a word, actually, that we use internally. So the idea to really put the patient at the center, make sure that patient can bring insight very early in the process of research, of clinical development, that we work with them, that they are associated to the processes of creation and of innovation within UCB, has been existing for more than 10 years, close to 15 years now. And this has brought us, and has really, it was a fertile ground for our sustainability agenda, because we were already extremely socially driven.
Yep.
So really, so that has been the journey. And what I can say also, which is interesting, and that came in parallel, and this, came also probably close to 10 years ago, was really the awareness that as a pharmaceutical company, we needed to be conscious of our environmental impact. And probably a point which is interesting there is that this really awareness came bottom up. So it came from team on the ground, which is very different from the patient-centric aspects. That was really a strategic intent coming from our board, our CEO, and the executive of the company, and embraced by the whole company. But it came really from the top. The environmental awareness and the fact that we needed to do something to really decrease our environmental footprint came from actually team on the ground in our manufacturing site. That really very closely after the Paris Agreement said we need to do something. And they really started to look at what could be done to decrease our environmental footprint, to decrease the use of water. And they really managed to bring business case to their leaders and convince them to really engage the organization. So our sustainability journey is a bit, the conjunction of those two approaches. So one top-down and one bottom-up. And that's probably also what makes it very well integrated in the company. Because it was not only a turn for the top. It was really also this willingness of colleagues in UCB to do something to take care of the planet and to really progress on that dimension. That's
very interesting. And maybe speaking about a bit the employees indeed and your team, how are you engaging them indeed in this sustainability journey that you have? So you have now that vision and that social aspect that came from the top, and then more the environmental that came from the bottom up, right? You have now that full vision of both elements. How do you engage in the end your team in let's say driving these changes? What has changed for them?
Yeah. So it's a good question because it's probably the most important question. Because if we want to really make an impact, we have to make sure that everybody is engaged, from the CEO to the people in Spain, in the US, in Australia, in China, and it's a very long journey. So what we do is try to be consistent in the way we look at where we can have an impact, because sustainability is sometimes now a kind of buzzword. It could really, basically, it could integrate so many dimensions that people sometimes could feel a bit lost. So what we have done is, from the beginning, and we started in 2019, conduct a materiality assessment to really define where UCB could have an impact. It was already a double materiality, so looking at the impact UCB has on society, but also the risk that actually some change in the environment can put on the financial strength of UCB. So we did that, and we identified at the origin 6 topics of interest, and we really built an agenda on those 6 ones. So really, one of probably the key point of engagement is to clarify where we want people to really make an effort, be engaged, and drive performance. So that was done. For each of those 6 pillars, and in which you have equitable access to medicine, but also the carbon footprint of the organization, and really a few selected others, we have defined an ambition, measure, to really measure our progress, targets, and they are part also of the corporate objective of the organization. So we define every year a set of corporate objectives who guide the whole organization for the year, and those dimensions are always within the corporate objective. We also measure performance of people based on actually their ability to move in the right direction on those dimensions. Okay. So we try to be really as consistent as possible across the organization. We are still on a journey. I will never tell you that we're done, because it's not true, know. And I'm sure that if you talk to our people across the world in different countries, probably they have still a different understanding of what really we want to achieve. So being consistent is one thing. Of course, after creating experience for them, it's really a very important way to change mindset and to really engage people. So it's actually timely. This week is the start of our Sustainable Performance Week at UCB. Okay. And we are engaging all the affiliates on actually those dimensions of sustainability. We are organizing webinars, and we are asking them also to create experience for their local team. So it's consistency in terms of objective, reward and recognition, strategy, of course, of the organization, but also the way we actually engage people on a daily basis and create experience for them.
Yeah, okay. And I'm trying also to understand one thing is in the what you're saying, do we have then specific objectives for the employees around sustainability then in the personal objective of the year? Do we have that across the UCB company?
Yes, so we have that, and so I can probably clarify what are the dimensions of sustainability that are strategic for the group. So we talked about equitable access to innovation. So clearly we talked about climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and the overall environmental impact of UCB. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is one of our key pillars. Health, safety, and well-being of employees is one of them. Ethical business practices. So innovation altogether. And the last one that was added it was added when we did our second materiality assessment recently, is patient engagement, which is about how we engage patients alongside really the value chain in the organization. And indeed, you're right to say that all those pillars are included in the corporate objective, which means that they are cascaded in the whole organization. So after, of course, depending on your expertise, you can't have an impact on everything, you know, and if you work, and you know, you could discuss it, but let's take an example. It's true that if you work in manufacturing, for example, you probably don't have a direct impact on the access negotiation for a specific medicine. Yeah. But you will have a lot to do in terms of carbon footprint, water consumption, etc. Yep. So everybody has to discuss with their hierarchy and with their leadership what is the objective that they will, you know, take as something where they can have an impact. So it's cascaded across the organization, and yes, so everybody can contribute.
Yeah, and that ensure that everybody contributes to that same journey and vision that you have. So that's great. And of course, an organization doesn't work alone, right? You also have other people in your value chain, which is also a challenge to engage them. How do you engage them at UCB, actually, like all of those other players that you have in your value chain?
No, it's a good point. And you know, if we talk about the environmental impact of UCB, and especially, you know, our carbon emission, clearly our scope 3 is 90% of our emission, a bit more than 90%. So clearly the way we engage suppliers is critical if we want to really achieve our objectives. So we have objectives set with the Science-Based Target Initiative. We are in the process of starting negotiating net zero objective, so which are even more stringent, which is right, and that's really the right thing to do, but it means that we need to engage suppliers. So that's something we started pretty early. We have a clear objective in terms of reducing the carbon emission linked to our suppliers. It's publicly known. So the objective is that by 2025, we need to have 60% of our supplier by emission with a science-based target. And I'm pretty pleased to say, because it's a public also, it's a public data, that we nearly reached it already at the end of last year. Okay. So we have already closed, it's 59% of our supplier by emission with a science-based target. How was it done? Or it was done through, you know, the kind of classic purchasing process that probably all companies are implementing, having a supplier code of conduct, putting clauses in our contract, and really, but probably more importantly, making sure, as you mentioned, that we engage directly with suppliers. So we talk to them, and we engage at different levels. We even have, for our strict strategic supplier, engagement at our CEO level. So our CEO has discussion with the CEO of our strategic supplier on their environmental footprint and on their target. So engaging supplier, supporting them also through different initiatives, and we are part of an initiative which is industry-based, which is PSCI, so Pharmaceutical in Supply Chain Initiative, where several companies came together, first of all, to also mutualize audit result, because at the end, you know, going each of us to do audit within the same supplier doesn't make any sense for us, and for suppliers it's a huge burden. So we mutualize clearly audit results, but we also support supplier in their transition. So it's classical, very well-defined purchasing process, and really a good collaboration between purchasing team and the business. But it's mostly about engagement. It's mostly about talking to them, understanding how they can evolve, how we can help, and making sure that they understand that we are all on the same journey. You know?
Yeah. I think what's very interesting and striking to me is how sustainability is integrated in the whole company, right? Because, I mean, we talked about the employees having their objective. Now we're speaking about the suppliers themselves, for which we're setting objectives, for which we have objective of selecting the right suppliers. So it really feels like it's very well embedded. It started then by being well embedded, and I guess at the top, on the CEO level and the board level. How did that go? Like, was it from the start? Was it a tough journey as well in discussion, or how did that go? That it was integrated as much as it is today?
It's a long process. So we are indeed supported by our CEO, who is absolutely convinced that it's the only way to go, and it helps a lot, for sure. So we have engaged also progressively all our executive committee and really, as you mentioned, people across the organization. Probably something that helped is that we really decided from the start not to have a sustainability strategy. We never use that word at UCB. We don't have a sustainability strategy. Sustainability is integrated in UCB strategy. So it's part of the strategic plan. It's part of the strategic discussion at the executive level. It's part of also the strategic discussion at the board. So we don't have a specific agenda just for sustainability. We really have made an effort, and it could have taken a bit more time because of that, because if we would have siloed the sustainability strategy, probably we could have had easier discussion, less impactful, potentially. Yeah. But as we really decided to integrate it in everything we do, starting at the strategic level, it took time because it was not natural. So really integrate environmental discussion in the strategic agenda, really always integrate also this idea of we have a fantastic medicine that is available. How do we make sure that it's accessible? And it's not easy because we don't have all the cards in the end. Negotiating access is a negotiation, as I said, and it's about really finding the way to engage with insurance, public or private, and really demonstrate values and understand their ability to pay, their willingness to pay. So it's not easy, but really embedding it in the strategy of the organization has helped, and is still helping to align the board, the executive committee, and the overall company. So. But as I said before, it's a journey. It's a journey. So we still have a lot of progress to make.
Yeah. There is a word coming to my mind when I hear about your sustainability journey at UCB is collaboration. In the end, it's the fact that if you really want to drive changes, you need to collaborate within the organization towards those goals, and make sure that everybody's embedded, and of course collaborate with then your broader value chain. And I think that's a shift that I see personally, is that if we want to change something in this world, we need to collaborate, we need to share. And that means, indeed, with your supplier is sometimes going for more strategic discussions and less about just competing on price. And of course, that remains, but that collaboration aspect, I think, is a very, very important future. And linked specifically to that, I was listening to your moral money discussion, and you actually touched upon that actually just now a bit earlier. The fact that you are collaborating indeed in the pharma industry to do those audits. Can you a bit more explain a bit further what exactly is behind that and how you started that actually to collaborate with other pharma companies to actually do audits on your suppliers and share those audit results? So
we and thanks for mentioning this discussion in the Financial Times Moral Money. That was a really nice event, and it was nice to be in a panel where with people from very different industries talking about engaging suppliers, and we realized that we are all on the same journey. And you know, probably the pharmaceutical industry is far less complex in terms of supply chain management than what is John Lewis, and really one of the other member of the panel was actually the head of sustainability of John Lewis in the UK. And for sure, for them, you know, they go from really purchasing food to clothes to it's super diverse supply chain. For us, it's a bit less diverse. So it's probably a bit less complex. But you're right that I completely concur on this topic of collaboration. And we see it everywhere. You know, those changes in society are so huge to make that everybody needs to do their part. And it's why it's important that companies are moving. It's important to have regulation that goes in the right direction. And really we see it in Europe going in the right direction. Complex, and I'm sure we can talk a bit more about it. But really having government, the business, and also citizen going in the right direction and in a similar direction is important. That was something that was also raised during this panel, the fact that we as individuals, we are consumers. And basically the way we consume guide also the way business are basically offering, you know, goods and services. So we have also an individual responsibility as consumers. Some more than others. I think that people who are, you know, extremely underserved and are in a very, very poor economic situation probably don't have so many choices. But I think that people who has, you know, more choice, which are possible, have a huge responsibility to consume the right way. So it's about government, it's about business, it's about consumers. And coming back to your point on collaboration within industry. So this initiative, the pharmaceutical supply chain initiative, is indeed has been created by company who wanted to come together to share knowledge, you know, and make sure that as I said, we don't spend resource and money to do audit. We don't go, you know, several times with the same question to the same suppliers, because when we audit suppliers for environmental practices or human rights practices, we have the same question. So why not, you know, define a calendar of audits that actually can be really done by different companies and results are shared. So it's a nice initiative, and it's great to see that, you know, we can agree on topics that are not competitive, because we are not in competition there. Yeah. We are there just to make sure that we support suppliers. We basically influence the way they also conduct their business, and therefore we create a better supply chain for the industry. So that's that's a great initiative.
Okay, no, very, very interesting. You touched upon regulatory. That's maybe one of the last points we would like to touch. I mean, we see in Europe and in the rest of the world also, but there is a growing, let's say, number of regulations popping up. Some people are a bit afraid, and some businesses are sometimes sounding the red alarm. How do you view these regulations for you? Is that positive, negative, or do you see opportunities? What is your vision around that?
In general, and I mentioned it already, I think that government and regulator have a huge responsibility to really help society evolve towards a fair transition. And regulation is one of the tools they can use. So personally, I see those regulations positively. I believe that they are enabling, and that they give a kind of, really, they set the baseline, and they help us to progress in the right direction. I'm sure that, and I know that it's a lot of work, and probably it's easier to cope with the regulation when you are a large company, and when you have already made move in the right direction. So at UCB, we already moved in that direction of really disclosing our performance on extra financial target. We publish an integrated report since a few years already. We went already through voluntary insurance of some of our key performance indicators. So we were already advanced, but anyway, especially the consequence of CSRD, of the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, are pretty massive for us also. So it's more work, more resource allocated, and it costs. It costs in people time, it costs in resources. So clearly, yes, it's an effort.
Yeah.
It's an investment and an effort. So. And I know by talking to smaller companies that sometimes for them it's really overwhelming. So it's a good move. We need regulation to progress. I think that for large companies, it's an effort, it's an investment, but it's going in the right direction. I completely understand that for some smaller business, it could feel really pretty overwhelming.
Yeah. And what is the main, because you speak about CSRD, right? I think that's what a lot of companies are busy with at the moment, because the first reporting is coming. What do you see as UCB, or maybe in general, as an opportunity behind the CSRD?
But first of all, I think that it's the right thing to do, because, if you look at the parallel between financial reporting and extra financial reporting, all the business have made huge effort to have a financial reporting and really a financial disclosure and the quality of the data at a very high level. And now it's a given. Nobody question it. So doing a similar, going in the similar direction for extra financial reporting seems absolutely logical if we want to transform the way we look at performance and not believe that performance of organizations are only financial, but that they are holistic and they include other dimensions. So you need data. You need a good quality of data, and you need to be transparent about it. So for me, I'm not sure it's a question of is it an opportunity or not. It's just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do to change the way we look at performance in organization and make sure that we can rely on solid data, we can disclose progress, and having data help us also to really define what is the journey, do we have the right set of ambition, and to engage also people internally. So for me, it's just the right thing to do.
It's just the right thing to do. Okay. I see that time is flying already. The conversation is flying. Maybe going back to your personal journey, right? If you look back and you look back at your younger self, right? What would you say to your younger self if you could meet her, let's say, today?
Oh wow, that's an interesting question, and I think that it's a challenging question. It's always difficult to look backward and to say what should I have done differently. And I was talking to my journey in terms of access and really being a consultant in this field, and after working in UCB as head of access. So clearly, yes, I would probably have started earlier to really try to foster, this better access for innovation, and really make it more prominent in what we do. So yes, I would probably also say to myself something I probably practice anyway, but be courageous and not say things basically when you don't agree or where you are uncomfortable with what is happening. Just raise your voice.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need. Currently, is people who raise their voice in organization, who really challenge also situation or decision when they don't believe it's right for the future, for the planet, for people. And so yes, continue to be courageous and to challenge the status quo.
Like your team who said, no, you take care of the environment, as of now we want to, like, right? The manufacturing who said, wastewater is important, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Raise their voice.
You know, being an activist in your organization on the positive way, it's probably the right thing to do.
Okay. And maybe a message. If you could put one sentence in every boardroom, what would that sentence be?
So, for me, an important knowledge was about the link between social issues and environmental issues. I'm really increasingly convinced that we will not solve the climate crisis or environmental issues we are facing as humanity if we don't also contribute to the social goods and to really contribute to reduce inequalities in health. You see that the two are interconnected, you know, and you see currently politicians struggling to push for environmental reform because it's not acceptable socially. So really, for me, if I could put in each boardroom, as you say, or executive, team, and in every company, the fact that we need to link social and environmental issues. They are not disconnected, and really, it doesn't make sense to address one without the others. So it should be an holistic way of looking at the impact we have on society, but also at financial performance. At the end, we are, and you know, we are a business, so we have investors, and clearly they are investing in us, and they are expecting returns. And so the difficulty is to integrate all those dimensions, and I mentioned it to you. That's what we have tried to do at UCB, to really integrate sustainability within the strategy and link environmental, social, and financial performance. So for me, this is a magic recipe, and I really hope that we'll get there.
Thank you. We'll try to get those phrases into every boardroom that we're getting into, right? Thanks a lot for all what you've shared. I think it was a very interesting conversation. We touched upon a lot of different subjects. First, your personal journey, then around more the patient-centric, and then indeed combining social, environmental, and how you brought that actually in your own organization, and then, of course, to your entire value chain. We had a brief touch point about the regulations as well, where you see it as positive in general, I would say, because it really shows that politics as well wants to move towards a more sustainable business world, and I think that's very positive. And then indeed your last message for the boardroom, combining social and environmental as being one thing, and then bringing that into the company strategy. Thanks a lot for that and for your time.
Thank you for the discussion.
Thank you.